Hi everyone, it's Lori from Lollipop Paper and LollipopPaperandInk.com. Today we're going to be doing our second video in the Back to Basics series. Last week we talked about cardstock and we talked about trimming and layering and measuring. So today we're going to talk about adhesives, and Stampin' Up! Has loads of adhesives for us to choose from. But, well, my dad used to say that there's a tool for every job, and the right tool makes the job that much easier. And he was right. And Stampin' Up! Offers us many tools to choose from to do our individual projects. And each one does serve its own purpose, so it's just depends on what it is that we need it for. But I have a feeling that you all reach for the same adhesives that I reach for every day, so those are the ones that we're going to go over today. Before I switch the camera back around though, I just wanted to say that I have a few more ideas on our Back to Basics series, but if you have any ideas of something that you would like me to do a video on, just let me know. If there's something that you're struggling with or something that just keeps coming up, just let me know and we'll see what we can do about it. Sometimes I have felt that if I had a question about something, pretty much other people had the same question. So it's always good to just get it out there and we'll see if we can help. So let me just take a second and I'll turn the camera back around and we'll get busy. Okay, I think we're back and it's all good now. So this is the page of the catalog. It's page 213 where we have all of the adhesives. And like I said before, we're not going to talk about all of them, but we are going to talk about the fine tip glue pen, the foam adhesives. I don't use those often, but sometimes if I have a very large square or rectangle layer, it's easier to just use those. Like I said, I don't use those too often. Mini glue dots I use all the time. The multi-purpose adhesive sheets, we're going to go over those today, and those are like a lifesaver. I don't know what we did without them. The multi-purpose liquid glue, I have to say I'm a kind of a newcomer to this. I would be a recent converter. I've tried it before and I wasn't happy with it, and I realized it was just probably the way I was doing it was not correct. So I am trying to get more used to that now. Snail I use all the time, dimensionals I use all the time, and the tear and tape I use for 3D projects, or sometimes if it's a very heavy layer, if I embossed it or somehow used watercolor and it was buckling up on me a little, I would use that. So those are all the adhesives to choose from, page 213 of the catalog. So let me show you what we're going to do today. I picked this card project to do because it pretty much had almost everything that we wanted to use today. So let's start with the Tombow, the liquid glue. Like I said, I'm a recent converter. I never really got the hang of it. I always felt it was messy and it kind of like gushed out all over. But I realized that I may have been just having a heavy hand. So I have to really remember to lighten up on it. So let's just try this first piece. I'm trying now to use this a lot with my layering, which does save a lot of expense on the snail because that is much more expensive. So a trick that I came with is I guess before I was holding it down and it was just coming out way too fast and too lumpy. So if I hold the paper up that I'm using and I just get a little bit like that, I always get nervous that the corners aren't going to be good, but I think that's pretty good. And what I do like about this the best is the flexibility you have to kind of fudge it. If you know, you use the snail and you make that layer and that's it, you're stuck with it. So this does give you a little bit of a fudge factor where you can move it around a little bit and get it to where exactly you want it to be. You do have to just press it down and it just takes an extra second, but I do think it is worth it. So that's the first one. So this one now we will take, and I kind of do the same later on. I'll use that for this. But let's use the, put the card base on and this doesn't really match because actually I'm using a stamp set. The stamp set is still current. It's called Coffee Cafe, but the DSP, which came with it originally in the bundle, is so adorable. I just couldn't get rid of it, so I do have that, but that's not available right now. So I'll do the same thing for the card base, and like I said, hold it up on an angle and just give it a little squish. I think before I was just doing it way too heavy-handed. So this is good. And I can always just move it around a little, hold it down for a few seconds, which is what I'm not used to. Usually with the snail, it's just like, put it on and don't give it a second thought. So, okay, so we're done with that. So now let's take our coffee cup, and I'm going to use the same thing. I'm going to put this right on here onto my coffee cup, one of these little holders. And you can see if you just put a little bit on, it's really sufficient. I guess I just always felt that it just wasn't going to cut it, but it's fine, and it doesn't blob out, you know, over it. So, okay, so that we have that on there. Now, this one here, and I use this silicone mat here. This is from Stampin' Up. It's their silicone mat. I usually use a different one. It's thinner, but it's larger because I kind of make such a mess that but for this purpose, I wanted to show you how useful this is when we do our different kind of gluing. So for this one here, I don't trust myself to use the liquid glue. So I would go back to my the fine tip glue pen because I just really want a little bit. This is going to go right behind there. So I know I have much more accuracy right doing it like that, where I can just put it on and I do not have to worry. And I could put it down here if I wanted to make sure that it's sticking. And so another advantage of using these silicone mats is, like, if I had gotten glue on this paper, it would stick on just about everything else that I was working on today. But once the glue dries on this page, on this sheet, you can literally just take your finger and rub it off, and it comes off so easily, and it keeps the mat in perfect condition, and you don't have to worry about it spoiling the rest of your project if you've got a glob of glue somewhere. So, okay, now, so that's how I would use my the fine tip glue pen. Now, I used to use this all the time with, I can't get it back in there, I'll do that later, with very detailed, intricate dies. But now that I discovered the adhesive sheets, I don't have to fuss with that anymore. The adhesive sheets just make that so much easier, and I'll show you how we do that in a little bit. So now I wanted to get this little cover to the coffee cup on there. And vellum is always a cool thing to use. It's very popular. People use it all the time. But the problem with any project when you're using vellum is that no matter what kind of adhesive you use, glue dots, snail, it shows through. So you have to really think in advance of how you're going to hide those glue spots. So for this now with the vellum, I saw someone else do this, and I thought it was brilliant, that you just put a clump of glue on your adhesive, on your silicone mat, and just pounce on it a little bit. Take a sponge, and I take my sponges and I usually cut them up in quarters or 6 or whatever, and then you can't see it. I'll show you right here. See? I'm a little crooked here, but so there you go, and you can see that you don't see any adhesive going through at all there. So all right, so that's that. Now I'm going to let that dry, and then I'll be able to just peel it off with my fingers in a few minutes. So on to our next type of adhesive, which would be, we all know, the Stampin' Dimensionals. So that's what I would use for something like this. And I would put some on. Now remember, when you're using your dimensionals, and they have the mini dimensionals too, which are great for if you use your leaf punch or a floral arrangement and you cut it out. Those are great because you can't see them at all. So, and remember, when you're using your dimensionals, don't throw it away once you're done with all of these, all of the actual octagons or hexagons. Because I use this. I just go ahead and I use these as my dimensionals. Or if I do have a project and I don't have any of those long adhesive sheets, I would just use this whole thing and I just put that on the border. So that works out great too. So let's put this on. And so we went through the liquid glue, we went through the fine tip glue pen, we went through sponging it on there. I think I'm gonna, yeah, I'll just leave that on there like that. And we went through the dimensionals already. So now let's go on to the snail. Now I would, like I said, I've always used the snail for way too many projects probably. But in this case, because there's areas here where it's raised, if it's an embossed layer, or like I said, if it was a watercolor technique that I did on it, I would definitely use this. Or if it was super dimensional, I would use the tear and tape. So the snail is, how you work that is just you take the top off, it goes down, it just protects the adhesive that's right there. The wording that's here faces your body. That's just what I tell my people. And you don't need a lot. What I do is just the corners. A lot of times people do the whole edge and a cross in between, and you really just don't need that much. When you are doing it, you try to make it and then pull it up really quick like you're making a little check mark. And that's really all you need to know for that. So I would put my layer here. I think I'll let a little bit of blue show. And then that's good for the snail. So then, almost done here. So I would just place this on. Now this one, I think it's pretty much of a heavy layer. I probably could use the liquid glue, but I think I'm gonna just do this instead, because it does have a few layers to it. And I think I'll tilt this little guy over here. Okay, and we're almost done with that. So, okay, so my one last thing is the mini glue dots, which I do use all the time. Now, this is just a little trick to using those. You could pick them up with your piercing tool, which I do if I'm going to be putting it on cardstock or on a layer. But if I have a bow or ribbon, I would just put it right there. Can you see that? Right there on the middle. Now, this is a tiny center to the bow. So what I would do first, because I think that would show through, so I'm just going to scrunch it up a little here and then pick it up. Oh, now it's really stuck on my nail. And then you just stick it right on there and you don't see it. You see that? And then you just pick it up and you put it wherever you want it on your project. And you're good. You don't see it, and that's another good use of these mini dots. I use them all the time for something like that. So that's that. Let me show you one last thing, and that is the adhesive sheets, which I get so excited about. This is how they come. They come in a package where they're long strips like this, 6 by 12. And what you would do first is cut out the piece of adhesive sheet to closely match the die that or the thinlet that you're trying to cut out. So I already cut this one out here. This is from the what is it called? The Beautiful Layers Thinlits dies. And I love this piece, but out of this die set, I love the fact that they have an envelope liner in there. Let me see if I can find that here. This is the Beautiful Layers Thinlits dies, and this die here makes for a beautiful liner for the inside of the envelope, which is very cool. I love that. So for this one, so that's what you do. You cut out as close to the shape as you can, just so that you're not wasting it. And then you're going to take the adhesive and pull back on one of the corners. Let me see if I can do it. Okay. And one side is sticky and one side is not sticky. So you're going to take this and you're going to, now I want the die to show the actual cut to show this print. So that's why I picked a DSP and not a cardstock. So I need to be sure that I'm going to put the sticky stuff on the back of the DSP or the cardstock that I want to be using. And just stick that on nice. It has a really tight adhesive, so you might get some on your hands. And then you take it and you take your, this is on the back side, so then you're going to put it right side up and you put your die on top, just as if you're doing your regular die. And then you just send it through the Big Shot like that. And I just replaced my plates today because they were so warped. I couldn't get anything done with it. Okay, so you run that through. And this works the best with these really intricate dies. And this magnetic sheets make it just so much easier. So then, oh, see, that's my new one. So in order to get them out, now maybe I could have run that back and forth 1 or 2 times, but I think it'll still be fine. What I do is I keep my die brush inside one of my old paper pumpkin boxes from the kits, and if this didn't fit straight in here, that's fine. It's just, you're just gonna run your die brush through, and this way you don't have these little pieces all over the place. And if you do, it's not a big deal. You can just poke it through with your piercing tool. Let's see how that came out. Okay, so I probably could have gone through a little bit more, but you get the idea. Okay, so let's see if I poke this through a little bit. And just so if I will use this in another project. I always use everything that I have for samples. Okay, but I love that trick about putting it in the in a box or in some kind of container. You could just put it in a bin if you want, just to save all those things so you don't have them all on your craft room floor. Okay, so, and then the easy part about this is then you would just take this, make sure all of the holes are poked through, and then just peel it off, and it comes off. If you can get your nail in there at some point. Come on, there it goes. And so the backing is all there. There's no extra glue, and you just place it wherever you want on your project. And you don't see, there's no lifting, there's no gaps, there's no whooshing of glue. It's just perfect. Now before, if I was using the fine tip glue pen, I would be having to make little dots all over, and you would probably see them. So that's it. That is our little back to basics with adhesives this week. I hope you took something away with it today. Please comment below if you have any ideas for future back to basics videos. Actually, the first one to comment will receive this card in the mail. So there you go. So we went through almost all of the adhesives. We went through the liquid glue, the fine tip pen, we went through sponging on vellum, we went through snail, we went through mini glue dots and dimensionals, and the adhesive sheets. So we went through a lot. I'm sorry this is so long. I can't get these videos to be shorter. I'm really working on that. So anyway, there's just a few more weeks left for August bonus days. Spend $50 and get a $5 coupon for September. I hope you all take advantage of that. And you can shop anytime with the link below. And I would be so grateful if you chose me as your demonstrator. So thanks again for stopping by today. Have a great day.